Hello and welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock. We have all of your news coming up with John Ramdine and Robin Black. What's going on today? Well, Palhares just won a free vacation from the Nevada Athletic Commission. Houston's going to get a slice of Bellator next year, and Khabib is Nurmagomedov the card. People are throwing stuff at me in here. Late Thursday night, it was reported by Ariel Helwani at MMAfighting.com that lightweight Khabib Nurmagomedov is off of the UFC's Fight Night card on December the 11th in Las Vegas, where he was set to return and fight Tony Ferguson. Nurmagomedov suffered a rib injury in training and had to withdraw from the bout. He has not fought since April of 2014, where he defeated Rafael dos Anjos, and it will likely be 2 years in between fights for the undefeated Russian fighter. Palhares had his hearing in front of the Nevada Athletic Commission on Thursday. He was represented by his manager Alex Davis, with the hearing featuring testimony from referee Steve Mazzagatti regarding the fight he had with Jake Shields this past August for World Series of Fighting. The focus of the hearing regarded the Kimura that he applied to Shields and how long Palhares held on to the hold for. The commission ruled that he was at fault and suspended the welterweight for 2 years and added a fine of $40,000 and covering the court fees. Palhares is 35 years of age, and the suspension would be retroactive to August 1st when the fight with Shields took place. And finally, Jeremy Botter of the Houston Chronicle reported on Thursday that Bellator will be hosting a card in Houston, Texas on February 19th and will have Kimbo Slice featured on the card, but no opponent has been reported yet. Bellator has yet to announce the February event and could likely reveal the opponent next week at Bellator 145 in St. Louis. Slice last fought in June, where he fought off a rear naked choke attempt by Ken Shamrock and came back to finish Shamrock in the opening round, with 2.3 million people tuning in for that specific fight and setting a new Bellator record for viewership. We are back next Saturday night, November the 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for a 1-hour pre-fight show with Robin Black, John Ramdine, and myself. We will get you set for all of the fights from Brazil, and then you can tune in here on Fight Network 8 Eastern for the entire undercard from Sao Paulo. I am here with John Ramdine and Robin Black, and clearly we're going to discuss Khabib Nurmagomedov being off of the December 11th card, yet another injury for the Russian fighter. This time it's a rib injury. Going so far as to say on Instagram he doesn't know if he'll ever be back. I think that's maybe a little premature, but nonetheless, it's going to be a minimum 2 years in between fights for this guy. His last win was over the current lightweight champion. Certainly we're getting at a point now in this guy's career where is this guy going to be able to reach this potential after this incredible entry into the UFC's lightweight division?
Yeah, I think it's just a sign of frustration. You know, he's in his prime right now, 27 years of age, you know, training hard. Everybody says that this guy could be the next guy to become the 155-pound champion. You kind of got to feel for him because he's training hard, and then you sustain this injury. It's like, I'm not meant for this sport. But once he gets himself healed up and realizes where he is, he'll jump back into the deep end, so to speak.
For sure, he will not reach his potential. Now, that's scary because he could still become the champion. Like, he could still be one of the great fighters in the world at 155 pounds, but he is not reaching his potential. Think of that. Think of what he'd be capable of if he hadn't broken his body. I mean, that's the case in all of these guys. Like, what the potential is almost never reached, you know? And so even with his inability to reach what his physical potential would have been, he's still unbelievable. Yeah. He's still amazing. And that concept is really a wild one. I think regardless, there's issues of confidence when you get your body hurt a lot, and so that can lead to other injuries. Like if you're not quite trusting your knee and you're moving and behaving in ways where you're trying to protect something, that can lead to other injuries. So it could be a while.
If there's a silver lining, it's not his knee. That was the problem. I mean, I think that would be raising more concern about how stable his knees are at this point after all the problems he's had over the past 2 years. A rib injury sucks if you've ever had one, but it's something that you can completely heal from and not have problems moving forward.
Yeah, and these are some of the challenges. When we were hanging out with Rich Clemente, he says basically his body hurts from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. That's the way it goes in mixed martial arts. You're not playing ping pong here. This is a combat sport, and your body goes through the grind. And I just think, again, it's just frustration.
You know, while we're on the topic, I know he's not Russian, so our Halloween costumes don't make a lot of sense, but Dominic Cruz, man, he could beat TJ Dillashaw. He could be the best, but he is beneath his maximum potential because of the damage that his body's taken. So what your potential is and how close to it you can get, that's kind of a debatable concept. But man, when these guys get hurt, like, you think, just imagine what Dominic Cruz could have been capable of had he not had multiple knee surgeries. Imagine what the Eagle could be.
If you remember when we were talking to the guys from TriStar, they said that, because they have an orthopedic surgeon in the trains at the TriStar Academy, they give them the ins and outs of the damage, and they said coming out of a surgery like that, a lot of the times it is mental, and if a fighter just subconsciously does not trust the knee, that's where the damage is going to occur.
And that could be a rib issue if you don't. You have to perform. I mean, when you watch fighting, sometimes you don't really think about it, but think about what they're doing. Football, any of these things, full power going into situations. You have to do that with certainty. If you hesitate or you do things in ways to try to minimize damage, you can actually hurt yourself even more. And that could be the case here. Once these guys go down these roads, it's a sad thing to see. Clementi's a great example. He's a very smart man, and he actually now runs pain management companies to find ways to help people later in life that have a lot of pain deal with it. Without drugs.
Well, hopefully Habib learns from Dominic Cruz and he's not rushing back too fast.
Oh, no.
We keep it with the Halloween theme, though, and Husamar Palhares is, I feel, going to be playing Michael Myers, where you think he's going away, but he's coming back at some point, and he's going to be pissed.
2 years.
2 years. Do you agree with what Nevada handed down to him? I mean, we've been talking about this forever, going back numerous instances of this problem with Palhares. Was cut by the UFC as a result of this. Mike Pierce has not fought since October of 2013 when he was submitted by Palhares. 2 years, I think that was the least that could be thrown his way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, does 2 years really make a difference? Would 1 year have served the purpose? Maybe you can talk to that
5 years.
5 years. If you throw the book at him.
Ban him for life, man. In jiu-jitsu competition, he's hurting guys. And then I got it worked out, and he's hurting guys. Then he's eye gouging. It's one thing if you're claiming, some psychological block when you just can't release submissions. That's nonsense, but it's, you're trying to convince us of that. Once you start eye gouging guys who are in a low mount and
that wasn't even brought up in the hearing.
I know.
That was a huge part of that fight that was never addressed.
Go back and watch that fight, and watch it from the point of view of what happens when he eye gouges him. Jake is low on him. He cannot move. When he eye gouges Jake, it motivates Jake to come up and punch him. He immediately initiates this sequence that he got going for a heel hook. It was planned. He's dirty. Ban him.
Does he fight somewhere like if you're Sakaki Bara? Are you looking at putting this guy on your New Year's Eve card?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. These promoters are doing what they can to make sure that people tune into their product and that fans come to the venue. And whether it's a big name, a guy like Fedor, where he's revered, or you're hated, like Husamar Palhares, you're going in there to see a certain outcome, and whether or not you're rooting for the guy or rooting against the guy, in this case Palhares, I think people are still going to tune in.
And people like disgusting, shocking things. I mean, he is the fighter version of 2 Girls, 1 Cup, this guy.
All right, on that note, he is Robin Black, John Ramsey, and I'm John Pollock. Happy Halloween.
Gross.
More Fight News Now Extra is coming up.